and I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Goose County. Over again. Hello, everyone out there across America and beyond. If you're joining me from across America or beyond, I don't know. We cover local news here on this podcast, and we cover statewide news. And today we're going to cover some national news. We're going to be talking about the Supremes, and I'm not talking about that 50s group that did a lot of really cool dancing tunes. No, I'm talking about the Supremes, the guys and ladies up in the Supreme Court who made some decisions today. Some of them good. Well, one of them good, some of them not so good, And we're going to talk about that. I do want to let you know that we were playing Where's 3H Tree Service. I don't know if we got a winner yet or not, but they are playing that. So if you want to go to the Facebook page of Where's 3H Tree Service, they could probably let you know if they're playing. And if you want, you can try to find them wherever they're at in the county, and you too can win a prize. So that's just some of the things that are going on. But I do have to make an announcement. We were doing petitions. We were getting petition signatures. I think we've done 8 or 9 this year. Way too damn many petitions. And so it's been something that has been near and dear to our heart, but there are no more petitions. The deadline is coming up on July 3rd, and all of these petitions were turned in to the chief petitioner, all of the petitions. Now, I hear there's a couple of good petitions that are going to be coming out. One for a constitutional amendment to make hunting and fishing a right. That would be something that is happening. We're going to try to make it happen, and that is that's going to be going on in the next year or so. So be staying tuned to this show. Keep checking in on my Facebook page, because we're going to be talking about the different petitions that are going to come out this year for 2020. I believe it's 2028. Isn't it 2028 I think that would be the schedule. I really don't know, but I do know that July 3rd is the deadline for any of the petitions that were going on to the general election. And unfortunately, some of the petitions didn't make it. They just didn't make it. And if I can take this off of there, and let's add that on there. Most petitions failing. Yep, most petitions were failing except for 2. And this is being reported by the Oregon Catalyst. You can find this at the OregonCatalyst.com website. Really interesting, good place to get some conservative news when they're willing to report on it. And this came out of the Taxpayers Association of Oregon, the Oregon Watchdog. They also had a petition out. And on this Friday, July 3rd, which is fitting, just before Independence Day, they set the dead limit for signatures. Kind of ironic. And that's because Tuesday, November 3rd is the election. And of course, it had to be a certain amount of days before the election to turn in these petitions. Based on a scan of news reports and on people in the field working the petition, it appears that almost all the petitions making the news in 2026 will not qualify. This includes abolish the death tax petition, right to vote on tolling, tough on crime sentencing petition, No paddleboard canoe tax and equal rights amendment officially ended. The equal rights amendment officially ended. And many of these petitions caught a tailwind from the historic gas tax referendum, the abolish death tax petition, and the right to vote on tolling petition were their second try and were able to double and triple their signatures compared to the first run. Yet many of the petitions still started late, sometimes caught up in court challenges, which makes it even more difficult to qualify in already difficult processes. And it's true, they have done a lot of things that made it really hard to get petitions through to the ballot. But we worked on it. We did a damn good job of it. And if you worked on these petitions, then you did more than 99.99% of the people in this state. I would say that would probably be about the right estimate, the percentage, because most people don't do diddly to save themselves. Yes, they're like the proverbial frog in the boiling pot. And you patriots out there who got off your ass and tried to make these petitions happen, thank you. Thank you very much. You're the people who are doing the hard work, and you deserve a kudos for that. Let's see here. Let's see. Here are two of the petitions that are close to qualifying: the hunt fish ban IP28, the hideous IP28. The campaign submitted 138,000 signatures to the state early. The measure requires 117,173,000 valid signatures. What? 173,000 valid signatures. Boy, I'm having trouble saying that. And they are still collecting. They're probably going to get on the ballot because why? Lefties run the counting polls. And when they count those signatures at the Secretary of State, they're not going to have any problem getting those signatures through. I can guarantee it. The Portland petition to fully fund the police. Now, this was a good one. If you're not in Portland, you can't vote for this. But this is a local City of Portland petition to restore police funding levels, and it has gained much progress in such a short amount of time. This petition makes the ballot voters would pass it. And it would be a rebuke to the disastrous defunding of police, 100 positions cut, and would help reverse the terrible crime wave, which is what they're still having happen in Portland. And speaking of Portland petition, there is still time to alert any friends you have in Portland to go online and download the single signature sheet, and you can send that in to the Taxpayers Association of Oregon. And right there on the screen is their address. Yep, just go there. Just go there. And if you're in Portland, you can download that sheet. And what a good thing. That was such a good thing. I do have some bad news. One of the petitions we had high hopes for, and of course, it wasn't reported on Oregon Catalyst. Why? Because, well, the Oregon Catalyst, well, they're establishment Republicans, and they don't want to talk about things that some of, what should I say, America First Republicans are doing out in the field. And one of the things that we were pushing is the end vote by mail petition. We had high hopes for that. We had worked very hard on it. We got the petition July, just a couple of weeks before the fair here in Coos County. And at the fair, I think we collected over 700, 800 signatures. I believe that's what our total was. But we were collecting the heck out of signatures, and we did that for a year. We did that through the 3 different headquarters that we had for the Republican Party. So we were pretty diligent about that. And I know there were a lot of people out there, but unfortunately, we're just not going to have enough signatures unless a miracle happens between now and July 3rd, while Michaela is counting those signatures. If you got a bunch of signatures to drop on Michaela, please do it now, do it immediately. But as of right now, it looks like we're not going to have enough signatures to get end vote by mail on the ballot. That's the bad news. But there is some good news in this. From what I understand, they are going to rerun this petition. And now that we have a bunch of names that are already on the petition, we know there are people already ready to sign. We are going to get those names. We're going to get those contact information, and we're going to get those people who signed to sign again. And we're going to utilize a different groups to try to push this ballot initiative. There were a lot of groups who didn't come to it until late in the season. and therefore they weren't able to, well, get it on the ballot. So we are going to do that. We're going to change it around. We're going to make sure that these people understand that we want security in our elections. And so that's very unfortunate. And I do have some good news. I'm kind of excited about this. Michaela Hammerson and Ben Edel, the chief petitioners of End Vote by Mail, will be on the Friday night rant, because I think they're going to have a lot to rant about. And I think, I know this for a fact, I'm going to be at the headquarters this Friday. If you want to join me, come on down. I think I'm going to buy a couple of pizzas. You're more than welcome to have a slice of pizza until, as long as supplies last. I'm going to get me a couple of pizzas. Maybe I'll get a couple of 6-packs as well. And if you want to come down to the headquarters and see what we're doing at the Friday night rants, if you got some ranting you want to do yourself, come to the quarters and we'll put you on screen. It's not a big deal. It's something that I've been wanting to do since we've gotten the new headquarters. It's something that some people have been asking me to do because they want to be there while we're filming the rant. The only problem with doing the rant is that at the headquarters is I can't drive or smoke anything because, well, we don't want to be getting any DUIs. And so I'd have to be really stone cold sober to do this. And I don't know, the Friday night rant, you kind of want to be tempered a little bit with at least 1 or 2 beers. So it's going to be an interesting show. We're going to do this Friday. Ben Edel and Michaela are not going to be there in person, but they will be there via video. And they'll be talking about the End Vote by Mail petition. They'll be talking about where we go from here and what we're going to do. And it's something that, well, I can tell you is very important on the minds of everyone. Remove that. There's been a lot of, I don't know if you heard about this, but Mike Lindell has been a very fortunate man. He had a $1.3 billion lawsuit against him, and they were suing him for defamation, I believe it was. And I've got some news on this. And by the way, on the screen there, if you can see that, that is the Lindell electioncrimebureau.com website. And right there is lots of evidence. This is at the website, and it gives you a chronological list of all the things that are going on right now with the Dominion lawsuit, Mike Lindell. But it was huge. This would have bankrupted the man. Let's see. Dominion agrees to dismiss a $1.3 billion lawsuit against Mike Lindell. A 799-page report of evidence of fraud from Dominion machines will be released today regarding the 2020 election results after a 5-year-long investigation. Voting machine companies are falling like dominoes. This is why Trump fought every single day for election integrity. The truth will always prevail. I don't know if that's true. The truth will always prevail. How do we know that? I don't know if that's a true statement, but I continue. And by the way, this is from Mike Lindell's website. The company formerly known as Dominion Voting Systems, now operating as Liberty Vote, has agreed to dismiss its $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against Mike Lindell and MyPillow with prejudice, meaning the case cannot be refiled. But that's not the only bombshell. No. We got more. Released alongside this news, PJ Colbeck's Election Crime Bureau has unveiled what it calls historic evidence in the dossier on the 2020 election. So you can find a lot of this stuff right here at this website. And once again, the website is electioncrimebureau.com. And this page that I'm on right now is lost evidence. I continue here. Let's see. Dominion had previously sued Fox News for defamation, but Fox settled for $787.5 million. Fox will now have to file an appeal to get that money back. Now, get this. Fox News, they settled because they're pussies. Okay, Fox News is a bunch of pussies. But do you remember what also happened? They lost Tucker Carlson. Now I know a lot of people might say that was probably a good thing. I don't know. I like Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with everything he says, but a lot of people say things I don't agree with, but I still respect their opinion. And so because of that case, Fox let good old Tucker Carlson go. And what I understood, I think he had a $120 million yearly contract they had to fulfill. That's amazing. But in October 2025, Dominion was sold to Liberty Vote, which is owned by former Republican elections director Scott Leyendecker, ex-Dominion Voting Systems executive Eric Coomer admitted under oath January 27, 2026, a deposition in Coomer versus Byrne to discussing voting equipment, adjudication software, and source code with foreign nationals, including Serbians who could remotely troubleshoot in the Denver offices. This contradicts years of Dominion denials of foreign involvement in U.S. elections, significant findings from the new 799-page Dominion documents of the stolen 2020 election, the number of ballots that exceeded the number of votes in 3 decisive states in the 2020 election. And get this number. And I had this put up on a PowerPoint that I was going to throw up on the screen, but for some reason, my PowerPoint didn't come through, and I don't know what the hell happened. It was very frustrating. I worked on it for hours, and I don't know. It just didn't go through for some reason. It's very disappointing, very disappointing. But this contradicts years of Dominion denials of foreign involvement in U.S. elections, and we know that's true just by what Mike Lindell told us a couple of weeks ago on the Friday Night Rant. He was talking about how he went to South Korea. South Korea has gone through a color revolution. They have been taken over by the communists, most likely the Chinese Communist Party. Their government is infiltrated. Their systems are now corrupt. And what systems are they using? Yes, they're using Dominion machines. And so let's see, I continue here. Significant findings from the new 799 Dominion documents of the stolen 2020 election. Let's see, states in the 2020 election, Michigan had 499,850 more ballots than voters. Wow. 500,000. That's 500,000 more ballots than voters. That's a margin of 154,188. Pennsylvania had 155,053 more ballots than voters, which is a margin of 80,555. Georgia, Fulton County alone, 22,534 more ballots than voters, a margin of 11,779. So as you can see, a lot of these elections in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, and in Michigan, and we know Michigan is already rife with fraud. Those states had a lot more ballots. I mean, 500,000 more ballots than voters. And the margin in the election was only 154,188 votes. That's in Michigan. And they tell us that our elections are safe, but yet look at all the fraud that's going on in Michigan right under the nose of the officials. So do you really think they're looking for fraud in our elections? I doubt it. But each discrepancy independently exceeds the state's margin of victory. New Dominion report confirms internet connectivity. Voting systems were not airtight like they claimed it to be. And this is true. We know this. The voting systems also operated outside of certified configurations in Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Colorado, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Election management systems were deployed with modified executables, uncertified software tools, altered error rate settings, and post-certification database changes, rendering the EAC certification label meaningless as a security guarantee. Isn't that nice? Imagine if these people were running your bank account. You would fire their asses and chase them out of town. It would be sad, yes. But Dominion, the voting machines, were built and sold with Wi-Fi and remote access. And we know that because you can't update it unless it has Wi-Fi and remote access. That's anyone with a brain knows this. But with live absentee processing being remotely taken over during the 2020 election while the EMS was left on the internet during the count, Database ports were open to the world, and the vendor's remote access software had been compromised with multiple foreign IP addresses, and that has been confirmed. It says here from Mike Lindell, I hope both Fox and Newsmax file motions to get their money back. They were hustled by the liberal media and by courts accepting such frivolous lawsuits. It's time to realign our country and expose all the corrupt, boorish behavior that conservatives have endured during the Biden years. And boy, boorish, I don't know if I'd describe it in that terms, but this is from Mike Lindell. Give him credit. In the broader context, and I got this from Grok. I put in all that information and I asked Grok, what do you think about that? And then the Grok answered with a broader context on the 2020 election claims. And like I said, this is from Grok, which is part of X, which used to be Twitter, who's owned by Elon Musk, okay? Or it's owned by Elon Musk. The narrative that Dominion machines were centrally rigged via foreign access to software manipulation to steal the 2020 election was promoted by various figures and led to numerous lawsuits. Dominion prevailed in several high-profile defamation cases or secured large settlements because courts found the specific public claims lacked sufficient factual support and were made recklessly. The company has consistently denied any role in fraud. That's a good thing. That said, legitimate questions about election security, voting machine transparency, chain of custody, and reliance on third-party vendors remain important policy topics. Many states have moved towards more paper ballots, risk eliminating audits, and stricter certification standards in response to concerns raised since 2020. They haven't gone far enough. But I continue. The new ownership of the former Dominion company appears to be positioning itself around greater transparency and paper-based systems. The dismissal of the Lindell lawsuit under new Republican-led ownership is a notable business and legal development, but it does not retroactively validate unproven 2020 fraud elections or constitute an admission by the prior company. No, it doesn't, but it doesn't mean that they're not. So settlements and dismissals often reflect litigation strategy costs and changed priorities rather than a judgment on the underlying facts. Bottom line, the lawsuit dismissed happened exactly as described. The accompanying fraud claims in the 799-page dossier and related details are promoted in certain circles but remain contested allegations that have not been substantiated through official investigations, court findings, or broad independent verification. Election integrity matters. Rigorous evidence-based security is the best path forward, and not recycled claims that courts and audits have already examined extensively. But once again, have they examined them extensively? And that was from Grok, and I don't know if that's so true. Let me get back to this website. This is something, if you want to go check out, the Election Crime Bureau 2020 Election Report rebutes claims of no evidence, and it'll give you all the information you might want to know to argue with all the people who keep calling anyone who thinks that there's compromise or fraud in our elections. If they keep calling you a conspiracy theorist, show them some of the story that I showed you. And you can find that, by the way, you can find that story once again at electioncrimebureau.com. And so that's just, a lot of things were going on. You know what else was going on? And I want to share this. The Supreme Court, man, they were having one hell of a day today. They were having one hell of a day. But before I go to the old Supreme Court, let's see what Hezekiah says. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, don't know what he's talking about. Looks like the pillow guy has more guts than Fox News. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. The Mike Lindell has big brass balls. What can I tell you? $1.3 billion. That would make me quiver. A company threatens to sue me for $1.3 billion. First off, I'm going to have to pay for a divorce attorney because my wife's going to divorce me for getting into such a lawsuit, number one. And then number two, I'm not going to be able to find an attorney to fight a $1.3 billion lawsuit. Damn, talk about warfare. Geez, these people are nuts. For some reason, that didn't go up on screen. Let's see. Hezekiah says, looks like the pillow guy has more guts than Fox News. That was the comment that I meant to put on screen, but didn't get to it, or it didn't click. One of the two. And then he says, Coos County, Oregon loves healthcare fraud. We do love healthcare fraud in Oregon. I mean, the whole Oregon Health Authority. Don't you dare question my authority. I'm the Oregon Health Authority.
You should have respected my authority.
That's right. You should have respected my authority. And yeah, Coos County, Oregon loves healthcare fraud. That's very true. And Hezekiah says, linked that website to Grok. And interesting. I bet you Grok's going to come back with some very strange replies to that. It's just going to completely, it's not going to, the whole narrative that we have secure elections tied to the Mike Lindell election crime website. Yeah, that might be like one of the scenes from Star Trek, you know, where they try to use logic to fool the robots. Remember the androids? Well, it's maybe I'm dating myself here, but not important, because what is important is that the Supreme Court, damn, they were in action. Now, the website that I have on the page, that is SCOTUS blog, and you can find it at scotusblog.com. And they're pretty down the middle of the aisle. I mean, they lean a little lefty, but they're pretty well down the aisle. And there was a lot of things happening at the Supreme Court. And I've got some videos on this from the news, but I wanted to show you that we're going to get some really interesting rulings out of the court soon, because they are really pushing a lot of these cases, and I think they're doing it on purpose. But I want to show you a couple of videos that I had from the news, and it talks about the first case first that I wanted to deal with, since I just talked about end vote by mail and the petition. This is, let's see if I got the right one here. Okay, this is the video that I want to play for you, showing that the end vote by mail, or receiving ballots after the election day. Yeah, it wasn't good for Trump. Well, I'll show you.
The U.S. Supreme Court, a decision is now in on a challenge led by Republicans to late arriving ballots in elections. Shannon Bream has the ruling. She's got the news and the headline now from the U.S. Supreme Court. Shannon.
All right, guys, this is not a win for Republicans who were challenging this. Mississippi has a state law which allows ballots to be counted, mail-in ballots after Election Day. If they come in, they're postmarked and meet the state requirements, but is a 5-4 loss for Republicans. And an interesting cobbling together of who wrote on this. Justice Barrett wrote the opinion. Justice Roberts joined her, along with Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. So those 5 stuck together on this. The dissent comes from Justice Alito. Thomas Gorsuch and Kavanaugh join him. And essentially what the majority said is that these federal statutes setting Election Day don't prescribe, or they don't stand in conflict with states that want to say, okay, we have a procedure to count ballots after Election Day. Justice Alito, writing for the dissent, says today's decision is inconsistent with the terms of the Election Day statutes, contemporary election law principles, 2 centuries of historical practice, and the case law on the question presented. So if you're a state out there that counts ballots after Election Day based on your state law, that state law will stand. We wait on more opinions now, guys. More to come.
So, Shannon, that means, for example, in California, where it takes them forever to count ballots, this doesn't help that situation at all, right?
It does not, because basically they're deferring to the states on when they can count those ballots after Election Day. They say the federal statute may set Election Day, but these states that have allowed for procedures outside of that and the way that they collect and how and when they collect those ballots, those state laws are going to be good. Mississippi was the state here, but yes, this will apply to places like California as well.
We did just get a ruling from the Supreme Court, not on those, but rather around mail-in ballots and whether they can arrive after election.
What did the justices who disagreed with this rule, what did they find?
Well, yeah. So Justice Alito leads them with Thomas Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and they just say, Alito says, there's a situation here in which it doesn't comply, he thinks, with our understanding. And remember, during the actual arguments on this case, he said we have election day. The word means something like you would say birthday or Independence Day. It's that day. He said things should be consummated by election day. That was his argument. So not surprising that he is the one writing the dissent. He was the most vocal during the argument, but he says it just doesn't comport with the law as he understands it. And he's got 3 who agree with him, but you need more than that. So again, it was Justices Barrett and Justices Barrett and Roberts who joined with the 3 liberal justices for this loss for Republicans challenging this Mississippi count.
Got it. Okay, we get more, right?
Yeah, we could get more, right?
And so there you go. Reporting on Fox News. This just happened today. The Supreme Court just ruled against Trump. This was a huge one. It also proves that the Supreme Court is not in the pocket of the executive branch, not in Trump's pocket, not happening. And no matter what they want to claim, it's just not happening. And so they will continue this nonsense for a while, I suppose, until the SAFE Act is passed. And we have the SAFE Act. It's closer than ever before. It's I don't know if we're going to be able to pass it, but this is the only thing that's going to save the election system. As long as we have ballots coming in after election day, there's going to be so much room for cheating that it's not going to be something that people are going to have any faith in. And I think after watching what happened to California, people don't have faith in it anymore. They don't have any more faith in the election system. And when we lose that grounding, when we lose that stability, when we see the incompetence and outright corruption in our institutions, such as our election bureau, such as our Secretary of State all across the nation, when we see this, and even going to our Secretary of State here, the guy is just absolutely just willing to be blind to all that's been presented to him. And it's been quite a bit. They keep ignoring it, but we keep trotting through. And thankfully, people who have big brass balls like Mike Lindell, who is facing down a $1.3 billion lawsuit, actually fought for, this type of accuracy, this type of integrity. And we're not getting it in our election systems. And it's really sad. Hopefully, we can change that in the coming years. But without it, I think our elections aren't going to get any better. I think we're going to have more problems with people voting, because why vote if our elections are not secure? But I don't want people to think that. Please, for goodness sake, whatever you do, you got to vote. You got to participate in the process. It's an absolute. Let's see. Hezekiah says Donald Trump should have listened to the El Salvador president about removing activist judges. Well, we do have a system here, and once they get appointed, they're there for a lifetime. And to be quite honest with you, with the rulings that have come out of the Supreme Court, I'm very happy with what they've been doing. There was a ruling on Thursday. This was from the Supreme Court, finally showed up and allowed the executive branch the authority to end temporary protected status. That's temporary protected status of people who are here illegally. Now rewind to February 4th here in Coos County. Remember that at the BOC meeting here right in Coos County, when Rod Taylor presented a immigration resolution saying that we support federal regulation law. Well, a room full of activists, the new DA and the sheriff, stood up against the county's illegal immigration proclamation. And Farmer and Sweet voted no on it. They voted no, and the proclamation died. But luckily, the courts saw it Trump's way, and TBS authority has been reaffirmed. Asylum limits have been upheld. Sanctuary arguments are losing ground every term, and that means all the people have been coming here saying that they're seeking sanctuary, allowed to stay in the country at our expense. The majority of them at our expense. Why we're paying for this nonsense is ridiculous. But that's what's going on. And so we have to do a little bit better in our counties and start fighting against sanctuary states. If we've got 29 out of the 36 counties in Oregon are red, why doesn't every one of those 29 counties pass a proclamation stating that we support these election laws? We support the Supreme Court's ruling. We do not support sanctuary cities. We think that criminals and anyone who breaks the laws and anyone who comes into the country illegally has broken the law, they should be sent back to the country of their origin. And guess what? If the country of their origin won't take them, we'll send them back to anywhere. If they're criminals, maybe you might end up in El Salvador, in an El Salvador prison. It might not be a very good thing, a good ending for you at all. So this is a good ruling that came out by the judges. So that happened on Thursday. So that was a good one. So not all the rulings that come out of this court, and in fact, most of the rulings since Donald Trump has been in court has been in his favor, I believe. I'm going to have to go and check that for sure, but I'm willing to bet that that's the case. Let's see. That's for all judges. Also, there is a system to remove activist judges, but the House and Senate won't do their jobs. No, I was talking about Supreme Court judges. Yeah, that's it. There's no way you could do it. The president just doesn't have the power to do it. No matter what you would like to think, no matter what you would like to believe, they would have better success. The Democrats would have better success stacking the deck with more Supreme Court judges, more leftist Supreme Court judges than Donald Trump would ever have of removing any of the Supreme Court judges. And I know a lot of people out there saying, oh, no, don't worry. Trump's going to bring in the military. He's going to bring in the military and he's going to take away the rights of all these blue states. I hear that a lot, that he's going to take over the election in the blue states like California, Oregon, and Washington. It's not going to happen, folks. I can tell you right now, that's just not going to happen. But I have heard this from a lot of different groups. They do believe, and I think this is a Q-initiated story that's been put out there, that Donald Trump is going to take the military, and by the election, he's going to take control of the blue states' electoral process and make sure that it all comes out fair. I just don't see that happening. I mean, we really don't have kings in this country. Trump is not a king. He just doesn't have that authority. And if you want to believe that, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I get along with flat earthers too, and people who search for Bigfoot. I have no problem with those things. I myself just don't believe in it. So that's just where we are with that. But it was a good thing that the Supreme Court did come out with a lot of these rulings because, well, it just wasn't right that that people were allowed to stay in this country well beyond their right to. Now, there were a couple of other cases that I want to talk about with the Supreme Court, and this came out as well today. And this is from CNN, so that you can see I play both sides here. Yeah, I play both sides. So we got Fox, and here's CNN.
U.S. Supreme Court, a decision is now in on a challenge led by Republicans to late arriving ballots in elections. Shannon Bream has the ruling. She's got the news and the headline now from the U.S. Supreme Court. Shannon.
All right, guys, this is not a win for Republicans who were challenging this. Mississippi has a state law which allows ballots to be counted, mail-in ballots after Election Day. If they come in, they're postmarked and meet the state requirements. But it is a 5-4 loss for Republicans, and an interesting cobbling together of who wrote on this. Justice Barrett wrote the opinion. Justice Roberts joined her along with Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. So those 5 stuck together on this. The dissent comes from Justice Alito. Thomas Gorsuch and Kavanaugh joined him. And essentially what the majority said is that these federal statutes setting Election Day don't prescribe, or they don't stand in conflict with states that want to say, okay, we have a procedure to count ballots after Election Day. Justice Alito, writing for the dissent, says today's decision is inconsistent with the terms of the Election Day statutes, contemporary election law principles, 2 centuries of historical practice, and the case law on the question presented. So if you're a state out there that counts ballots after Election Day based on your state law, that state law will stand. We wait on more opinions now, guys. More to come.
So, Shannon, that means, for example, in California, where it takes them forever to count ballots, this doesn't help that situation at all, right?
It does not, because basically they're deferring to the states on when they can count those ballots after Election Day. They say the federal statute may set Election Day, but these states that have allowed for procedures outside of that and the way that they collect and how and when they collect those ballots, those state laws are going to be good. Mississippi was the state here, but yes, this will apply to places like California as well.
We did just get a ruling from the Supreme Court, not on those, but rather around mail-in ballots and whether they can arrive after election.
What did the justices who disagreed with this rule, what did they find?
Well, yeah. So Justice Alito leads them with Thomas Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and they just say...
I'm sorry, I just played the same video for you. This is CNN. My apologies.
Handed down two key decisions on presidential power and the firing of people from government agencies. Justices ruled that President Trump does not have the constitutional authority to fire Lisa Cook, a governor from the Federal Reserve Board.
But the court backed the president's power to terminate Rebecca Slaughter, a Democratic appointee to the Federal Trade Commission. This ruling grants more presidential power over federal agencies that are considered independent. It overturns 90 years of precedent. CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed is right outside the Supreme Court. So, Paula, walk us through the significance of these decisions today.
Pamela, these are such incredibly significant decisions. In many ways, these will be some of the defining opinions of the Roberts Court, because they get to this question that has been hanging over the second Trump term, which is, are there any limits to his ability to fire federal officials? And here they give us some insight. While President Trump and his lawyers believe in something called a unitary executive theory, and that the executives should be able to fire anyone they want, any way they want, here the justices put a few limits on that. In the one case, they ruled, and it's a really interesting group that was in this majority opinion. It's Chief Justice John Roberts, Justice Kavanaugh, and the three liberals all ruled that he cannot fire an official in the Federal Reserve without going through a process, giving that individual an opportunity to respond, that there are some limits on his power when it comes to firing officials at that agency. Now, that is one that has, of course, always been recognized as being independent of the White House. But in a separate case, when it comes to an employee at the Federal Trade Commission, that he does have the power to fire that individual because that is within the executive branch. And again, this is a significant decision because it's sort of drawing out the contours of the extent of his power to try to reshape the federal government through these mass firings. Now, President Trump wasn't clear how he was going to react to these decisions, and it's been a pretty mixed day for him overall at the court, but he described this as, quote, a big win.
I want to bring in our Chief Supreme Court analyst, Joan Biskupic, right now. Joan, like Pamela, Paula, you were inside the court when these decisions came down. Give us a little sense of how that felt.
Sure, Wolf. It's good to see you. The most important thing the justices did today was in the case involving Rebecca Slaughter of the Federal Trade Commission. Chief Justice John Roberts and the conservative majority used that decision to roll back nearly a century of legal policy about the president's power to remove the heads of regulatory agencies. Now, in some ways, this is going to sound kind of dry and arcane, but regulatory agencies are so important for how Americans live their lives. They cover rules for, medical, health, nuclear power.
Yep, they look gleeful. That's what GC Vintage says. They look gleeful. Yeah, they were real happy about that. But let's talk about that. So SCOTUS, and I like to call them the Supremes, prevents Trump from firing federal governor at the Federal Reserves. The Federal Reserve, one of the governors at the Federal Reserve. And because historically, the Federal Reserve has been completely separate from the executive branch. It's not federal. It's really not a reserve. Basically, what we do is we pay the Federal Reserve it's a central bank to set our interest rates and to print money. And they print a lot of money, a lot more money than we have assets to cover that money. But they print a lot of money. And the Federal Reserve, I'm with Ron Paul. I think we should get rid of the Federal Reserve. It's one of those non-agencies because, like I said, it's neither federal nor is it a reserve. And as you can see from the SCOTUS blog, that the courts prevented Trump from firing the Fed government, but Supreme Court allows Trump to fire the FTC commissioner and overturns major restraint on presidential power. Now, this is a good thing. This is where cleaning out the swamp has been made much easier for President Trump. He's going to be able to get rid of a lot more people that he's been wanting to get rid of thanks to this court ruling. And each time that he goes after someone, one of the swamp critters and one of these agencies, of course, they take him to court. That's their number one play, is take him to court. And so Trump won't have to deal with that now because the court has ruled. They have settled this. Ezekiel says the Federal Reserve with the IRS needs to be abolished. Excuse me. Boy, the allergies here in Southern Oregon right now. I don't know what the hell's blooming, but it's getting me. It's really getting me. But back to the Federal Reserve and the IRS. Yes, the IRS was ruled unconstitutional and wasn't made constitutional until amendment was added to the Constitution in 1913. One of the worst years in American politics. One of the worst years, 1913. We got into the World War I. We created the Federal Reserve, which was a monster. We allowed for the income tax, which was really bad because we created a monster that's now a monkey on our back, like we're junkies. Well, actually, we're not the junkies. The politicians are the junkies. And they're feeding off of us. And then, of course, there's the third one, and that's where they made our state senators, the senators, not our state senators, our U.S. senators for each state, made those took it away from the state legislators. The legislators used to appoint our senators. Now it's a popular vote. All senators are elected by popular vote. But before 1913, and people go, well, Rob, would you want the Oregon legislature to be the one selecting our senator? And they couldn't do any worse than Merkley. Merkley is just horrible. He's a horrible, horrible person. They couldn't do much worse than Merkley. But the thing is that when you have your legislature picking your senator, the senator then has to come back and justify what they do in Washington, D.C. And of course, we have a bunch of greedy legislators. They're going to want to know what the senator's bringing back to Oregon. And they would work better for Oregon because they know they would have to work for the legislators. Now, there's arguments for or against that, but this happened in 1913, 3 amendments to the Constitution that were really, really bad. And the Federal Reserve and the IRS need to be abolished. They need to be taken out. And so that was some of the rulings that came out of the courts today. And of course, what can I tell you? We're dealing with it as it comes down, and they'll have some more rulings coming out. I don't know what exactly those will be because I didn't look them up. They are listed, and you can find out more here at SCOTUS blog. What's really great is they'll give you statistics, term statistics, Start Pack archive. The calendar is really great. The calendar is good. You can ask for all, and then it'll give you the color coding, and it will tell you, how did I do that? There we go. And you can go to the calendar, and it will tell you what the cases they have released for today. And so this is a very good resource if you're really interested in what's happening in your country. I don't know why you wouldn't be. And of course, there is this page, the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, this is really good. It'll give you the opinions of the court cases. Let's see if they dropped any of the opinions of the court. And here you go. There's a list. Here's a date of all the opinions that came out. And let's see. I covered 3 of them, I think. And those are right there where you can find this. This, by the way, is supremecourt.gov, supremecourt.gov. And I was under the opinions tab right there. So just so you know where to get that in case you're looking for it. I don't know if you're looking for it, but there was a lot of things happening in the news today. Before I go any further talking about the news, I want to let you know that now that we've got the petitions done, now that we've got those damn petitions done, and we may have had a couple of wins, we've had a lot of losses, doesn't mean we're not going to keep fighting. Only pussies give up, okay? We lose a lot sometimes. It's okay. There's going to be another election. There's going to be another petition. And more importantly is we're going to need candidates and we're going to need volunteers, and you can help out with that. We are looking for candidates, conservative candidates for the city of Coos Bay specifically. And this is for the 2026 election. Now, if you're someone who wants to run for office and you live in the city of Coos Bay has gone far left. They have a very woke flag policy where they wanted to fly queer flags all over the boardwalk. And I went to the city, me and a bunch of people, and I had contacted a group who was led by a lawyer who already took the case all the way to the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 ruling, the court decided that you can't display any other flags except the government sanctioned flags. And if you display any other flag, then you've opened it up to public comment and everyone gets to fly their flag. And of course I wanted to fly the Don't Tread on Me flag, the Gadsden flag, but they wouldn't let me do that. They wouldn't even let me do the Christian flag. I went up there with the Christian flag. No, we can't have that because it's controversial. The gay flag, not so much. So this is why we need people to run for office in Coos Bay. We need conservative candidates to run for office in Coos Bay, because if we don't get it, that city is lost. And if you look at the boardwalk and look at the loons who are coming out every other weekend to do the No Kings protest, which is weird because I just gave you a bunch of decisions that went against Trump and his court cases. You would think the king would have the authority to rule any damn way he wanted. He's the king. So the Supreme Court just killed that whole idea that Trump is a king. But those idiots in Coos Bay who gather at the boardwalk every other week, well, they are growing in numbers, and we need that city to go back to the right a little bit. And if you want to check out, you can find out more information on the Friends of the Coos County Republicans Facebook page or the CoosCountyRepublicans.com web page. And on those web pages, you'll find out this information. You can go to my Facebook page. If you scroll down my Facebook page, you'll see this. This is really good stuff. Ezekiel says, Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield visited Coos County a couple of days ago. Yes, he did. Excuse me 1 minute. I've got to do something. Okay, much better. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. It was really important. And so where was I? There we go. I've mixed up the sequence of my little screens here. So if you see me flipping back and forth, it's because, well, I just don't know what the hell I'm doing. And if you want to, oh, nope, I didn't want that one. I wanted that one. If you want to find out more about what's going on in the Republican Party, we are open still, even though we don't have a petition yet. We don't have the petitions yet, but we do have people down there from 2 to 6, Monday through Wednesday. And then from 10 to noon, we have someone sitting there on Thursday. So if you want to come down and talk to Republicans, you want to volunteer, if you want to help open up our headquarters so that we've got people from 10 to 6 p.m. every day, 5 days a week in our headquarters, you can volunteer to help us out. I mean, you can't complain if you're not going to get involved. Being a citizen, it's a participation sport. It really is. And so we need more people to go down to the headquarters and find out how they can run for office. Find out what you can do to volunteer, because there are many, many different things that are going on. And we're going to continue that because, well, that's just what we do. Oh, let's see. What else did I have here? Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the election coming up. And of course, we have one guy who's running for office here, Mr. Merkley. You know Mr. Merkley. Senator Merkley. Yeah, really scary. We got him running. He's got Trump derangement syndrome, as you can see by this cartoon. This guy has been a thorn in the side of conservatives for a long time. He hasn't done much for anyone here in our county, in his district here, at least at what I have seen. So, you know, I don't know why we keep electing him, but we do. We keep electing this guy. And so one of the things that I want to remind people is that Senator Merkley has been fighting against Donald Trump for a long time. Even before Trump was president, he was fighting against us, the people. I know he says he represents Oregon, but he really doesn't. I think he's the best senator New York State has. And I want to give you a chronological list of some of the things that Merkley has done in his career. In 2009, December 24th of 2009, he voted for Obamacare. Yep, that's one of his things that he did. In 2011, he introduced filibuster reform resolutions aimed at limiting or altering the filibuster, requiring talking filibusters or he wanted to requiring talking filibusters, which I actually agree with. This is something I agree with. I think they should go back to old time filibusters, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. 2016, he endorsed Bernie Sanders, who is a Democratic socialist or a socialist Democrat. I'm not sure which one of those words should DS say. I think the S should, it's a Socialist Democrat Party of America, not the Democrat Party of America. We really should call it what it is. And going back to Bernie Sanders, you know, people are trying to tell you, and they're going to feed you this bullshit. This is the line they're going to be feeding you. They're telling you, oh no, we got to worry about the socialists. Look at Mondami. Look at all the people he's endorsed has won the primary. They're probably going to win their positions. The mainstream media is serving you this, and it's no matter whether you're watching Fox or CNN, they're talking about how the socialists are taking over the Democrat Party. That's bullshit. All right, that's BS. The socialists took over the Democrat Party going back to 1972, okay? The socialists have been in charge of the party for a long time. They just didn't call themselves socialists. And this guy right here on the screen, Merkley, he's a socialist. They're big government socialists. They would be glad to take your property. They are taxing you to death. They are taxing you to the point where you're in poverty. And they have no qualms about it because, well, they're going to do what's best for all of society. This guy can't even vote for what's best for Oregon, but that's what he claims. So people who are feeding you this crap that the party has become socialist, no. Merkley endorsed Bernie Sanders going back to 2016 when President Trump did his first run. In April of 27, he delivered a marathon 15-hour floor speech, often described as a filibuster-style protest, against Neil Gorsuch of the Supreme Court, or his Supreme Court nomination, calling it a stolen seat. Remember when Gorsuch, they tried to appoint him, and voted against confirmation. Conservatives criticized it as obstructionist theater and hypocritical, given the prior blocking of Merrick Garland. They saw Gorsuch as a highly qualified originalist, and he was. Gorsuch would have been fine. On December 7, 2017, Merkley voted against the Tax Cuts and Job Act. Conservatives praised the bill as the largest tax reform in decades, which it was. And Merkley's nay vote aligned with the unified Democratic opposition, or as I like to call it, the socialist Democrats. So anyone who's telling you, you know, this BS that, oh, no, they're really not. They're really not a socialist. That's not what's happening here. Yeah, they're socialists. They've been socialists for a long time. Let's see. I got some more. My paper's got a little messed up here. Okay, I've got more. In 2017 and 2020, Merkley voted against the Supreme Court confirmations of Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. Conservatives regarded both as exceptionally qualified judges. Now, Barrett and Roberts just voted against late ballots coming in after the election. They decided in favor of keeping the late ballot law. Brett Kavanaugh, he decided against it. So there once again shows you that people have their own mind. They're individuals. They do their own thing. You have Brett Kavanaugh, who Merkley was against. Then you have Barrett, Amy Coney Barrett, who Merkley was opposed to, voting two different ways. And I think they did that for several of the decisions that came out today. In June 2018, he attempted to visit a migrant processing facility. Remember this, when all the Democrats, they were all crying because of the separated children. They're separating children. Yeah, probably to send them off to be trafficked in the United States. But he visited a migrant processing facility in Texas and strongly criticized the Trump administration's zero tolerance family separation policy as dehumanizing. Conservatives defended the policy as legitimate enforcement of existing immigration law, which it is, and it still is today's. It's crazy because Merkley was literally undermining border security and the rule of law. That's literally what he was doing when he did this. 2019, this is also Merkley, co-sponsored the Green New Deal. Don't tell me these sons of bitches aren't socialists. The Democrat Party are a bunch of damn socialists. So when you hear the news story, oh, the socialists are taking over the Democrat Party. No. The socialists have always been there. They're just lifting the veil. They're taking off their costume and they're coming out full on socialist. I don't know why we're calling them socialists. They're freaking communists. They're not by any stretch of the imagination free market moderates or progressives. No, Merkley, Wyden, the two assholes who represent Oregon are a bunch of socialists. They're not liberals. They're not moderates, not even close to the stretch of the imagination. And this guy co-sponsored the Green New Deal resolution. That's resolution number 59. I think it was pushed forward by, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I think I said that right. I don't know. I may have been screwed up there. But let's see. Conservatives denounced it as a radical socialist agenda that would ban fossil fuels, mandate trillions in new spending and government economic control, eliminate jobs in traditional energy sectors, and impose unrealistic timelines that would devastate the economy while failing to meaningfully address climate change. Because climate change is real. Climate change has been happening since the planet was a planet. Since the planet became a planet, climate change has been happening. How much does human existence affect climate change? I would say it's not even consequential. I mean, sure, we make a lot of mess in a lot of places. Just go look at Lakeside and their wooded areas surrounding the city. Yeah, just go look at that. Humans are dirty animals. We're filthy, disgusting, dirty animals. How much of our actions and what we do on the planet actually affects climate change? I don't know if it's consequential at all. In fact, I would say it's unconsequential. I think the rotation of the earth going around the sun has much more to do with hurricanes in Florida than anything else. Just my opinion, and probably the opinion of a lot of people who are now allowed to be heard, that this whole new Green Deal, this new green scam has come to light. But let's see. Ongoing throughout his tenure, he supported expanding gun control measures, including co-sponsoring of universal background checks. Conservatives argues he's infringed on our Second Amendment rights. He had a consistent pattern on spending, immigration enforcement, and low alignment with conservative priorities. I would say low alignment with American values. So this is what we get stuck with, folks. This is what we get stuck with. And I personally, I'm not happy about it, but what are you going to do? This is the guy who's in office, and he's probably going to remain in office because, we're going to be stuck with him, the person who's running against him. And I'll be talking about that person in a minute here, but he isn't going to be able to defeat Merkley. Merkley's a machine. And we would love to see Trump defeat Merkley. This would be a dream bout at the World Wrestling Federation. I would love to set this up. I would love to, and of course I got Trump there. He looks like what's that called? A He-Man. I heard there's a new He-Man movie out. I wonder if that's true. It's got to be macho, really macho. But here's macho Trump. I really don't think he looks like that. But what does AI know? Beating the crap out of Merkley, because why? Well, when Trump wins, America wins. And it would be good to get rid of this guy. Wouldn't it be fun to see this? Oh, Trump, this is what we need. Trump throwing a body slam on good old Merkley. That's what we need. But you know what we're going to get? Thanks to the people who are running now, this is pretty much what we're going to get, the same old, same old. We're going to get Merkley, who, well, he never stops talking. He has nothing but broken promises. He's blocking everything, and he's delivered nothing, absolutely nothing. And this is what we're living with as our representative. But like I said, it's not going to get any better. Why? Because this is the guy who's going to be running against him, or is running against him. This is David Brock Smith. Now, I wasn't going to talk about David Brock Smith, but David sent me another letter. Yeah, you want to open the mail? You want to open the mail with me? Yeah, it's not like vote by mail. No. So I got a letter here. Haven't even opened it. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping it's a dinner date. Is David asking me for a dinner date? I don't know. But here's David Brock Smith. Urgent. Open immediately, because anything David Brock Smith sends out has got to be important. And so he sent it to me. Now you can tell this is a good use of funds. David Brock Smith hates my guts. He knows the only thing I would give him is a middle finger and a kick in the ass if I could get close enough. But he spent his money. All you people who are giving money to this idiot here. Let me put that back on screen. That idiot right there. Yeah, if you're giving money to him, you're wasting your money. You might as well give it to Christine Drazan. She has a much better chance of defeating that butch-haired dyke that's in office right now. She has a much better chance of defeating Kotek. And I'm not a big fan of Drazan, but I'm going to support her. I'm voting for Drazan. But this fat bastard who just wasted your contributions. If you gave money to David Brock Smith, I want to show you. This cost right here. What does a stamp cost? Is it 50 cents, 60 cents? I don't even know what a stamp costs today. So he spent money on a stamp. And of course, he's sending it to people who don't even like him, because I should be the last person getting a letter from David Brock Smith, especially one that's probably asking for money. But I'm going to open it up here. You want to open it up? Yeah, I know you guys like that. Rob's Mail. This should be a new section of the show. Oh, come on. Cheap envelopes. Oh, here we go. Here we go. We got a nice letter from David Brock Smith. Oh, let me read you. Let me read you from this fine piece of literature from David Brock Smith. Yes, let's see here. Let's see here. Oh boy. What is that? That must be a happy. Oh no. I don't know who folded this. Let's see. Dear Rob, because you know how David cares about me so much. He cares about you. That's why he's voting to give billions or millions of dollars to the Moda Center. Yeah, that's why he does that, because he cares about people in Southern Oregon. But dear Rob, he says, please sign and rush back your defeat Jeff Merkley emergency reply. If you are a patriot who wants to fix the mess Oregon has become, Measure 110, allow drug addiction and overdose death to run rampant in our streets. Prices are skyrocketing and hardworking families can barely make ends meet. Homeless encampments spread like fungus over Portland's streets. Now let's take these one at a time. So David says, Measure 110 allowed drug addiction to overdose death to run rampant in our streets. It did. What does that have to do with Merkley? That's a state initiative that the people voted on, David, or maybe you're just stupid. I would agree with that. You're just stupid. But what are you going to do about this? What can Merkley do? He's a U.S. senator. That's what you're running for, a U.S. position. So, David, that's a state issue. I don't know what you're talking about. Prices are skyrocketing. Okay. Well, tell me, David, what have you done here in Oregon? What have you done successfully that has lowered our prices? Anything? Anyone? No, I can't think of a single thing that you have done to lower our burden, our tax burden. In fact, you increased our tax burden by voting to give taxpayer money to a bunch of millionaires on a basketball team that is owned by a billionaire. And by the way, that billionaire doesn't even want to pay for the renovation. And then the homeless encampment spread like fungus over Portland streets. Okay, that's a Portland issue. What are you going to be able to do over that? I don't know. So I'm going to continue this letter. Let's see. This is what happens when you let radical Democrats turn the world upside down. Yeah, radical Democrats who vote to put tampons in the boys' bathroom. Crazy radical Oh, wait, David did that. Okay, sorry. Extremist Jeff Merkley twisted social experiment where criminals are somehow victims of society has failed. And then that's true. That is true. But then again, David, you voted to not allow the police to release mugshots of Antifa during the riots. So let me read that to you again. It says, extremist Jeff Merkley twisted social experiment where criminals are somehow victims of society has failed. Well, David, you voted for a law that contributed to that failure. So I'm not sure replacing Merkley with you, I'm not sure how that's going to get any better. And he says, Rob, I love that. He uses my name again. He says, Rob, it is time to bring common sense back to Oregon. That is why I'm running for U.S. Senate, and I need you to join me. No, what you need is you want people to give you money because you know you can't win, but you need that money so you can continue to live off of your constituents. That's what you really want. But he says, please sign your defeat Jeff Merkley emergency reply and rush it back to me with $35 campaign contribution to help me take back Oregon. Take it back to where? Back to Portland, where your brother works? Because that's what you voted for, the bailout for the Blazers, is so your brother could get a little more money in his restaurant. I think that's what it was. I don't know if his brother owns a restaurant or a motel, but his brother's going to be getting on the grift. He's all in on the grift. Let's see, in case we haven't been introduced, I'm Senator David Brock Smith, a proud third-generation Oregonian from Port Orford. Yeah, well, we're gonna show you how popular David is in Port Orford. You're going to love this. But I continue with David's letter to me. He says, and I'm just a small businessman and public servant for Port Orford. Yeah, you're not small by any stretch of the imagination, and you haven't served anybody, Jack. So you're already wrong on that statement. But Rob, he says, Rob, I've spent my career fighting for my neighbors in the Oregon legislature. I don't have millions in the bank to bail me out. Well, thank God you don't have billions, and you haven't fought for your neighbors. You fought with your neighbors. In fact, you tried to get several of our businesses shut down, you jackass. Damn, dude. And you got me canceled off the radio. So if that's fighting for your neighbors, all I did was ask them the question, David, why did you support the windmills, pass a bill supporting the windmills, created the roadmap for the wind turbines, all of that, and now you're lying about it. You once supported it. Okay, just tell us you supported it. But no, he had to lie about it. And when I caught him in the lie, what did he do? He contacted the radio station, got me canceled. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Really working for your constituents. Yeah, sounds really good. But I know this state. I know its people, and I know that true Oregon patriots like you are ready to send Jeff Merkley home. And I am ready to send Jeff Merkley home. I'm just not ready to send David Brock Smith to replace him. No, it's like replacing herpes with syphilis. It's not any better. So, which is why your defeat Jeff Merkley emergency reply and your generous gift of $35 or more are so crucial. Your donation of $35, $50, $75 or even more will go directly to reaching voters through grassroots canvassing, TV and radio ads. And the campaign infrastructure we need to pull off the upset this state is ready for. It's not going to happen. It's not, and I'm going to prove this to you that David can't defeat Merkley. I'm going to prove this to you. You don't believe me? I hope there are some David Brock Smith supporters out there, because I'm going to show you what the locals think about David Brock Smith. But I continue. He says, let's see, P.S. PS. David put a PS in there. Isn't that nice? He put a PS in there. He says, Rob, radical Jeff Merkley has had 18 years in the United States Senate. Yeah, which is way too long. Term limits. And Oregon is worse off for every single one of them. Drug overdoses, skyrocketing homelessness, and rising costs are squeezing families out of their homes. And Radical Merkley owns every bit of it. And so does David Brock Smith, because David Brock Smith has been in office, about 8-10 years now. He was a representative. He was a commissioner. He was on, I believe he was on a school board. He was on a city council. He was a commissioner. And then he became a representative because they appointed him, not because he was originally elected. And then they appointed him to the senator's office, which was Cruz's was in that position. And that's how he's gotten to where he's gotten. He was selected. He was not elected. And until he was an incumbent, that's when he got elected. And so that's why this just cracks me up. Let's see. The only way to defeat him is with grassroots support from patriots like you. Please rush back your defeat Jeff Merkley emergency reply and your generous contribution of $35 or more in the next 48 hours. David, you can wait and holding your breath until hell freezes over, and I ain't giving you a damn dime. David Bucksmith, you can suck it. You can suck it. That's pretty much where I'm at with that. But let me show you something that I just, I don't know whether many people know this about David. Let's see if I can get this up there. Yeah. This is the guy who people think is going to defeat Merkley. If you think that, I got a bridge to sell you. And let me see if I can get my share screen up here. Let's see, where did I have that? Yeah, let's see. No. Let me go through it. I'm scrolling through. Oh, okay, here we go. So I don't know if you guys know about this, but there was an election recently. It was a local election. It was for a local co-op. And here we go. This is for the 2026 Curry election cooperative election results. The Coos Curry Electric Co-op. This was Thursday, June 25th, when this election happened. And here were some of the people who won and the candidates who won in southern districts. And look at here. Now, let me make sure it's sharing right. Right there on the screen, as you can see, there were 4 candidates for the District 4 position, Port Orford Langlois. Now, Port Orford is the hometown of David Brock Smith. I just showed you this letter where David Brock Smith brags about helping out his neighbors, how much he has given to his community, how much he has sacrificed for you. Brings tears to my eyes. Now, let me ask you, if he's done so much for his neighbors and for the people of his hometown, Port Orford, then let me ask you this. If you notice, I'll give you these 4 names right here. Johnny Jones, David Brock Smith, Laurel Wentling, and Dennis Bowman. Johnny Jones won by 414. David Brock Smith came in second at 320. Johnny Jones, out of 4 candidates, got 37%. David Brock Smith, the sitting senator for that district, came in second for a simple local co-op board for the co-op for the electric board. He came in second. Is that pathetic or what? I don't know how more pathetic you can be than to, be a sitting senator, be running for the U.S. Senate, and you can't even win for your local electric co-op. Is that not pathetic or what? I didn't really want to mention him. I wasn't even going to talk about him because I was going to talk about Merkley. But since he sent me this nice little bullshit letter asking me for more money, I thought, what the hell? What the hell? We'll go ahead and talk about David. What do we got? So I'm going to go back real quick, and I want to see some of the. Ezekiel says Coos Bay doesn't know their own history since they recognized Christian Heritage Month back in 1999. And we may do something about that. we may pass an initiative that recognizes Christian Heritage Day. That we may be able to do that. I'm looking into something like that. Hezekiah says Joe McCarthy was right, and he was right. Unfortunately, Joe McCarthy went the wrong way about it. Instead of using a more principled way of going after communists, no, what did he do? He created a blacklist, put a bunch of innocent people on it, and destroyed the lives of people who weren't communists, while the real communists were surviving and thriving in the U.S. government, and they're there more today than ever before. So yes, Joe McCarthy was right. He just went about getting rid of the communists in the wrong way. Mount Tambora made the year 1816 to have no summer. Yeah. And Doug Farrell, how you doing, Doug, says, should we write in Joe Ray Perkins instead of DBS or Merkley? You know who I'm going to write in? Todd Vaughn. Yeah, I'm going to write in Todd Vaughn. That's who I'm going to write in against Merkley and DBS, because DBS can't defeat Merkley. He can't even win. He can't even win the vote on his own local electric co-op. He can't even win. He only got 28% of the vote. That's pathetic for a sitting senator. That and I want to hear the arguments from all of you supporters of David Brock Smith. Please explain to me how a man who only defeated the second person in the primary, Joe Ray Perkins, by 2.3%, I think it was 2.3%. That's all he got. 2.3% more than Joe Ray Perkins, a sitting senator, and they think he's going to defeat Merkley? I doubt that. And then he can't win the co-op. And then here's another thing, and I don't know if you guys know this, but David Brock Smith, he had the chance to be endorsed by the Coos County Republicans. Of course, David Brock Smith would have had to have shown up and answered some of our questions. Well, he didn't. He hasn't. He's always invited to all of our meetings. We took a vote at the last meeting, the Central Committee meeting, which was last Wednesday, and the vote was unanimous. We support all the Republicans who came out of the primary as winners. That's Court Boyce. I'm not a big fan of Court Boyce, and I probably won't be voting for him, but we're endorsing him as Republicans. I'll go ahead. If I have to choose, I'll take Court over David Brock Smith. But Court Boyce, Claire Lynn, which I fully support. I like Claire. I'm sure we're going to be fighting and arguing once she gets into the session and starts voting. But I like Claire Lynn, so I like to see what she's made of. Monique Despain, we endorsed her, and we endorsed the governor, or the lady who's running for governor, Christine Drazen. I'm fully supporting Christine Drazen. Has a lousy voting record. She voted for tampons in the boys' bathroom. But the one thing she didn't do, she didn't come out here and attack her constituents. She didn't attack our private businesses. She didn't attack us as people. She has never done that. So I have no reason not to endorse Christine Drazen other than her lousy voting record. But what can you do? She's still better than Tina Kotek. So I'm fully in support of Monique Despain, Claire Lynn, and Christine Drazen. Fully in support of that. As far as DBS, no, and that's what the party thinks. The Coos County Republicans voted unanimously to endorse all four of those candidates except David Brock Smith. Yep, David Brock Smith was notably removed from the list of endorsements, and the vote was unanimous. We had 34 PCPs there out of the 100. We have 100 official PCPs, and the reason we didn't get all 120 is because some of them didn't return their forms. Some of the ones that signed on were supposed to return a form, and they didn't, so not everyone got on as a PCP. That's okay. We can still appoint you if you didn't get to be a PCP. The party can still appoint you. But 34 PCPs at Wednesday's meeting decided unanimously that we can't support David Brock Smith. There's no way in any good conscience that we could support a man that's kept 100 people from being PCPs in the Coos County Republican Party. Him, in collusion with Rod Schilling and Michael Brainard, kept people off of the Central Committee. They denied every Republican representation on your county party. David Brock Smith did that to you. So if David Brock Smith if he barely can beat Joe Ray Perkins by 2.3%, he can't even win on a co-op electrical board. And the second largest party in his district, county party, that's Coos County, voted not to endorse him. How do you people think he's going to beat Merkley? I would love to hear your comments. If you're a David Brock Smith fan, hell, I'll send you the link to get on to the podcast right now. If you want to argue that point, I'd love to hear it. How do you think David Brock Smith is going to defeat Merkley? He's not. He's not at all. In fact, I believe that he's not going to be any better. Why? Because he's just as much in cahoots with China as I believe Merkley is. Now, this is satire. I can't prove that, but I do believe the votes that David Brock Smith has made as a sitting senator, as a representative, benefits China over America. So this is really what you're getting. This is what a vote for David Brock Smith or Merkley is all about. You're really voting for Xi Jinping. That's who you're voting for. These guys aren't America first. David Brock Smith supported the wind turbines. Then he lied about it. Merkley, he supports the Green New Deal. He supports big government. There's not really much difference when it comes down to it on a lot of these issues. David Brock Smith might be a little bit better on the Second Amendment, but I guarantee you he's not nearly as good on the First Amendment, because I would be willing to bet he'd like to shut a lot of us up. He'd love to shut me up. Instead of sending me letters, he would like to just shut me up, but that's not going to happen. So I'm just curious, and I haven't, I don't think there are any takers. Nobody has the balls to come up and defend David Brock Smith. Let's see. Doug says that makes sense to write in Todd Vaughn. Yes, it does. It does. Todd Vaughn would have been a kick-ass state representative. He would have been a kick-ass state senator, and he would have been an even better U.S. senator. Don't think that's going to happen, but what can I say? That's just the cards we have been dealt. So my advice is to all of you who want to see a change in the state of Oregon, get behind Christine Drazan, get behind Spain, Monica DeSpain, and get behind Claire Lynn. Claire Lynn, I think, is going to win pretty handily. The guy she's running against is a woke liberal Democrat who I don't think has a chance in hell. And so I'm not too worried about Claire Lynn. Monica DeSpain, Christine Drazan, they're going to need all the help they can get. They're going to need a lot of help. And hopefully you folks can help them out with some of the things that they're doing. Let's see. What other things that I thought was just really great that just happened recently? Let's see if I can find it. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. The tide is turning, folks. You see that? The first time I showed this picture, it was without the convicted label on it because they were going to trial. And this is from Andy No. This is from Andy No, Andy No's website. And he's been fighting against Antifa. And believe me, Andy No, of all the people who should be fighting against Antifa, is this guy, Andy No, because he was assaulted, not just once, several times by Antifa, and nobody did anything about it. He's a gay Asian man. He can put a lot of checks on a lot of box for that diversity card, and yet Antifa doesn't really like diversity. Well, diversity of thought. They don't mind diversity of physical attributes or your sexuality, but we can't have anyone thinking outside of the collective, because this is the collective. That's the 8 people there. That's part of, they share the same brain as all the other socialist Democrats in the collective. They all share the same brain, and that's why they're all a bunch of idiots. I don't know. How does the conversation start? Hey, why don't we go and raid an immigration facility? How does that conversation start? I'm just curious. How is it that someone can convince somebody else, hey, let's go and attack an immigration center? You've got to be really stupid to think that's okay. I mean, you really, 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 really got to be someone who's a freaking moron to think, oh, yeah. I'm just going to go, and this happened in North Texas. We're just going to go to the facility, the immigration facility, and we're going to free all those immigrants. Yep. This is what socialist Democrats, when they share the same collective mind, this is the same crap you come up with. And thank God the courts are finally waking up. Well, there was an FBI statement sent out today. Let me see if I can share that. And this was great. There we go. Nope, wrong one. Let's try this one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so there we go. So the FBI sent out leader of Antifa cell members in North Texas sentenced to 100 years in prison for terrorist attack on ICE facility. This is great news. This is so good. And this is happening across the country. And now that they have been labeled a terrorist group, it's going to get a lot worse for these guys. So let me continue. This came out June 23rd. This was last Tuesday. 7 additional defendants also sentenced before 1 year anniversary of attack on a combined 450 years in prison. Today, and that's pretty good. Sentenced before 1 year anniversary. That's really good. That's really good. That shows the courts are moving right along to make sure that justice prevails. And today, the Justice Department announced that 8 North Texas Antifa cell operatives were sentenced to their roles in rioting, using weapons and explosives, providing material support to terrorist obstruction, and the attempted murder of the Alvarado police officer at the Prairie Land Detention Center on July 4th, 2025. This is the first sentencing of defendants affiliated with Antifa following President Donald J. Trump's executive order designating the group as a domestic terrorist organization in September of 2025. Why? Because they are filthy terrorists. And yeah, I'll show you that those filthy terrorists right there. Those are the filthy terrorists that I was talking about. Let's go back to that. And so I continue reading. Let me tell you what some of these things were and what they did. And I say were because that's my pronouns for these pieces of crap. They don't deserve he, him, his, her, they, whatever. They don't deserve any of that because, well, they're filthy animals. And so Benjamin Hanel Song, who was convicted of the attempted murder of the law enforcement officer, was sentenced to 100 years in prison. Together, the Prairie Land terrorists received a combined sentence of 450 years in prison. Let's see, one received 70 years. Maricela, she got 70 years. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I'm not even going to try. Cameron Arnold, he got 50 years. Savannah Batten got 50 years. Zachary Ebbets got 50 years. Bradford Morris got 50 years. Elizabeth Soto, so not, got 50 years. And Daniel Rolando Sanchez Estrada was sentenced to 30 years in prison. It didn't help him that he had 4 names. Nope, didn't help him at all. The sentences handed down today make clear that Antifa terrorists who attack law enforcement and federal facilities will face swift and uncompromising justice, said Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Their violent extremism has no place in our country, and the Department of Justice will continue to aggressively investigate, disrupt, and prosecute those who threaten law enforcement officers or undermine the rule of law. About damn time, wouldn't you say? It was about damn time that this happened. Let's see. I continue. Today's sentencings show the FBI remains committed to identifying, locating, and dismantling Antifa and its funding networks across the country, said FBI Director Kash Patel. Kash, all you have to do is go to Portland. Go to Portland. I know people who have been watching and monitoring Antifa for over a decade. We can take care of it. So let's see. Acts of violence against our law enforcement partners will not be tolerated, and we continue our work to protect communities across the country from domestic terrorism. These sentences justly punish the vicious armed attack that these Antifa cell members planned and executed against law enforcement and detention center officers on the night of July 4th last year. July 4th! What a bunch of sick bastards. I don't know if I want to read any more of this, but you get the idea. They were sentenced. They were put away for, it says, after Antifa cell members arrived at the detention facility, they began shooting off and throwing fireworks explosives at the facility and vandalizing vehicles and a guard shack on prairie land property. That's crazy to do that in Texas. They'll shoot you in Texas. I'm surprised nobody stopped their car driving by. I know if I was driving by in Texas, hell yeah, you Antifa, we're going to take you out right now. Damn right. Trump's going to give me a medal. That's right. So exploding fireworks thrown at the Prairie Land facility by Antifa cell members captured by surveillance cameras. Isn't that neat? Oh, look at that. They've got to use profanity. F you pigs. Yes, yes. Remember in Animal Farm, the pigs were not the cops. The pigs were the politicians. The cops were the dogs. You remember that in Animal Farm? That's important to remember. See, when they say F the pigs, they're talking about the cops, but the real pigs are the politicians, people like David Brock Smith. Now that's a pig of a man. The police, they're the dogs in Animal Farm. And there's a reason for that, because they're just doing the bidding of the politicians. And of course, because they're the front line, everyone goes, oh, it's the police are the problem. No, it's your politicians. Your politicians are the problem. And it's the same problem we're having right now, where there is absolutely no law enforcement here in Oregon. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody gets convicted of anything. But yeah. Witnesses testified that an Alvarado police officer responded to the scene after correctional officers called 911. When the officer began issuing commands to defendant Nathan Bauman, Benjamin Song can be heard on a police body cam yelling, "Get to the rifles." And then he opened fire on the officer, striking the Alvarado police officer in the neck as the unarmed correctional officers ducked and ran for cover. Police arrested most of the Antifa cells shortly after the attack. Many near the scene. Benjamin Song escaped and remained at large with the help of the others until his capture on July 15th, 2025. Trial evidence demonstrated that collectively, I love that word when it's being used to prosecute collectivists. Isn't that nice? So today's trial evidence demonstrated that collectively, this Antifa cell acquired over 50 firearms, which, by the way, that really isn't a lot. I can guarantee you probably 10 houses on my street have more than 50 firearms. I don't know. I know some of the guys on my street. I think they would have more fire. That's really not a lot of firearms. These people were underprepared. But I continue. This Antifa cell acquired over 50 firearms in the Fort Worth, Dallas area prior to July 4th. During trial, the government introduced numerous chats of the members who used an encrypted messaging app to coordinate with each other that had auto-delete functions, permanently deleting some Antifa cell members' communications. They also used monikers in group chats to hide their identities, and some of the planning chats included only trusted participants. The chats introduced at trial revealed the members in this limited group conducted reconnaissance and discussed what to bring to the riot, including firearms, medical kits, and fireworks. So these people were preparing. It was like a Boy Scout outing to these guys, except with violence and a bunch of leftist crazy ideology fomenting the whole attack. Yes. So this is crazy. Witnesses who testified during the government's case included the Alvarado police officer who was shot in the neck by Song. Detention officers present that night who also took cover from rapid fire, multiple additional responding officers, numerous investigative agents, and cooperative co-defendants, including Bauman and Sharp, Thomas, and Kent. Among other things, Kent testified that the night before the attack at a gear check, because you got to check your gear. If you're going to go and become a terrorist and go on a terrorist attack, those gear checks are really important. Song proposed to free the detainees at the Prairie Land Detention Center and told the group that they should wear black block and bring rifles because he, Song, wasn't going to be arrested. Evidence at the trial also revealed that some of the defendants attended a peaceful daytime protest at Prairie Land on July 4th without the gear they brought that night, and that they reported back to other defendants details regarding security at the facility. So this was planned out. This was no surprise. These people are bastards, real bastards, un-American bastards. And so I'm glad this reprobate here, these derelicts, these criminals, these animals, they should, I don't know. You go and you shoot at police officers and we know beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty. Maybe we should lower the death penalty to take care of people like this. 50 years. I don't want to give these people 50 years of me paying for their meals, paying for their cots. I don't want to pay for that. Do you people want to pay for that? No, I think they should be summarily taken out to the either the gallows. We can hang them. We can do a firing squad. I'm one of those. I don't like the legal injection. I think that's too easy. That's way too easy. They do that in Canada and call it healthcare. That's what they call legal injection there. That's called healthcare in Canada. That's right. And so here we use the electric chair or lethal injection. I don't know. I think the electric chair is kind of, I don't think it's good enough. I think we want hanging and we want the firing squad brought back. And that's in case, they miss the first time, they can shoot them a couple of more rounds. Yeah, we want to make sure they're dead because we don't want these people walking the streets. And for 50 years, and in Texas, that's probably 50 real years. In Oregon, 50 years, that means 5 with good time. And everything's a good time in prison here because nobody gets punished. Now, one of the good things that's coming out about this is that some of the people who were attacked by Antifa are being vindicated by some of these trials against Antifa. And some of the people are actually who've been convicted, wrongly convicted, because they defended themselves against Antifa. Remember when Joey Gibson from Patriot Prayer, remember when he went to a bar where Antifa hung out, and he was just standing on the street corner in front of the bar. All of the Antifa rushed out, and this was on video. I showed it. I played it on my show. It was on video. They came out. They doused Joey Gibson in the face, several of them, with tear gas. And Joey Gibson, he's really badass, or maybe he's just used to tear gas right now. I shouldn't say tear gas. It was pepper spray. They doused him with pepper spray, and he just stood there. He stood there with his eyes closed, and he didn't flinch. He didn't move, and he didn't back down to him. And guess what? Because of that, they charged him with causing a riot. Yeah, he's the only man to get arrested in Portland is an Asian man for causing a riot against Antifa. See, you can be any color you want, but if you attack Antifa, you're in the wrong. And that's what happened to Patriot Prayer Joey Gibson. And luckily, he won his case. And I'll have to talk to Joey. He's getting married this month. He's got a lovely bride. They're getting married. And I hope the best for him. But we'll find out about his lawsuit because I believe he was suing the city of Portland or the DA's office, one of the two. We'll find out more about that. But another friend of mine, I don't know if you guys remember. Do you remember a show called Laughing at Liberals? It was a great YouTube channel. And the guy who ran it, Mike Strickland. He was in Portland and he would film the crazy antics of Antifa. And this was way before 2016. I think this even goes back. It goes back to 2010 and 2012. He started filming this. And he was trying to expose Antifa. And he was warning us all over the state. And many of us got this warning. Many of us started realizing, who's this Antifa? And this goes back to 2012, 2013, 2014. And of course, by 2016, it was full-blown commies on the street. Antifa's taken over Portland. That became a fact. And you only have to look back at 2020 to have that fact proven for you. Just look at what happened to the city of Portland. Just look at Portland right now. I mean, it's in complete disarray. I don't know if the Portland city is ever going to come back, thanks to Antifa, thanks to the leftists who run the city. Well, Mike Strickland, he was at a courthouse and Antifa was attacking him and he pulled a gun on him because they well outnumbered him. And apparently, you can't defend yourself in Oregon. No, when 5 guys come to attack you and you pull a gun out on them, you can't do that in Oregon. And so he lost his Second Amendment rights. He lost his case. I forget the crime he was convicted of. I think he spent time in jail. I'm not sure, but he's gone. And I should have had this story available, but last week, I think it was Thursday, he went before the judge to try to get back some of his Second Amendment rights. And I hope he does. Because he's a friend of mine. I haven't talked to him in a while. I was trying to get him on today's show. I wanted to hear a response from him maybe in the future we'll get Mike Strickland. But if you remember that show, Laughing at Liberals, all of these court cases and the designation by the president making Antifa a terrorist group is going to help out average citizens who have run afoul of the organization, because we know they're an organization. They've got leaders, they've got bank accounts, they've got an emblem. They're an organization. I don't care. I know Merkley said they were just an idea. It's just a concept, just an idea. That's what Merkley said. Another reason we need to get rid of that bastard. But we know it's happening, and it's happening quite a bit. So that was one of the stories I wanted to talk about before I got out of here. Now, next Monday, I'm going to have a recorded show. I'm trying to do more recorded shows and get some interviews with some of the people I've interviewed over the years. I'm going to try to get Joel Skousen back here, Trevor Loudon. I've got Suzanne Gallagher from the Parents' Rights in Education organization. That's a national organization. I should be interviewing her sometime this week. So hopefully I'll have an interview, what we call a canned interview. I'll be able to record it before next week and then play it as if it was live on Monday. So that'll be happening Monday. And on Friday, I want to invite you guys out. Friday night, I think we might as well start at about 7 because it's going to at least take me an hour to set up, if not a little bit more. So if you want to come out to the headquarters at 7 o'clock, that's the Republican headquarters, and hang out on Friday night. We're going to do the Friday night rant, and Michaela Hammerson and Ben Edel are going to join us through video. And we've got a really big, beautiful, big screen TV that we'll put their pictures on and put their videos on, so you can come down and watch it at the headquarters on July 3rd. And the reason we're doing this is because I got to pick up Stompy. Yep, Stompy's going on a trip. Stompy's going to be in a parade because Stompy is one patriotic elephant. So Stompy, and if you don't know who I'm talking about the red metal elephant that we have as a mascot for the Republican headquarters. We're going to have that at the parade. And if you want to be in the parade, send me an email at rob@robtaylorreport.com. And I can let you know where we're going to meet. At 8 o'clock, we're going to be meeting, and we're going to be hopefully decorating the I don't know if you call it a float. It's really a trailer. But we're going to be decorating the trailer. We're going to have Stompy on there. We're going to have a bunch of us walking beside the trailer with all the Republican signs, except for David Brock Smith. That's right. David Brock Smith can't put his sign on the party's trailer or at any of the party's events. Why? Because he's not endorsed by the party. What does that tell you? David Brock Smith isn't going to be at the parade, well, at least on the float, or his signs aren't going to be there. Why? Because, well, we don't endorse him because he's no better than Merkley. Like I said, it's like choosing syphilis over herpes and sending them to Washington. Not a good choice either way. And so, but if you want to join us for the parade in Bandon, we're meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you want to find out where, give me an email at rob@robtaylorreport.com. And I believe Danessa has a bunch of things that we're going to hand out to the kids. We got, what are those called? Those pinwheels? Those whirly gigs, the spinning thing. Yeah, I think they're called pinwheels. Pinwheels. Yeah, we got some pinwheels. We're going to hand out balloons and bracelets and all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to hand out some candy. I think they were told us we couldn't throw the candy. We might ignore that rule. So don't worry, kids. We'll get you some candy. We'll get your candy supply. Believe me, we're Republicans. We're not like the filthy Democrats. We're going to follow through on those promises. So we'll get you some candy and grab a pinwheel, and hopefully we'll have some flags to hand out. I think I got a bunch of little flags that we can hand out. But if you want to march with us in the parade in Bandon, the parade starts at 10 o'clock. And you want to carry an American flag or even a Trump flag. We endorse Trump. We totally endorse Trump. You can have a Trump flag, or maybe you want to walk with us or ride in the trailer and you want to have a Christine Drazen or Claire Lynn or Monique Despain sign. If you want to hold that or walk with that beside us in the parade, you're more than welcome to join us. We want to make a big deal about it. This is our 250th anniversary. I think we should be making a whole hell of a lot more of a event out of this than what it's going to be. But that's okay. We're going to celebrate the hell out of the day. It starts on Friday night, 7 o'clock, head over to the headquarters. I'll be doing the Friday night rant live. And then on Saturday, if you want to join us for the Band and Parade, we would really like that. And we are going to have a flag wave that same day. That's right. So after the Band and Parade, we're going to have to go get lunch and eat up, because we're going to need a lot of nutrients to carry on through July 4th. It's going to be tough, at least till we get to the barbecue. And so you're going to have lunch, and then you head over to Coos Bay at the boardwalk at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock on July 4th, we're having a flag wave. We're asking you to bring out your American flags and show your patriotism at the boardwalk. And we hope that we don't get any counter protesters. I don't know why anyone would counter protest. All we're doing is celebrating the 250th anniversary of this country. And I wish I had a flyer. I should have had the flyer available for you, but I don't have it. And it's unfortunate, but 3 o'clock at the boardwalk. And I will have that flyer available by Friday. I'll get that up on the screens. And you can find it on Facebook. I'm sure I shared that. That was in one of the groups I was in, one of the Patriot groups. But we'll be doing that at the boardwalk, 3 o'clock next Saturday, July 4th. July 4th. And so come on out. If you want to be in the Band and Parade with us, give me an email and I'll tell you where you can meet us. If you want to walk with us, actually, if you show up at the Band and Parade and you know where they line up all the floats and the trailers and all the stuff that's in the parade, you can come out there and find us. If you find us by 9:45, you can pretty much join in with us. It's really not that formal. It's Bandon. What can I say? So yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff on 4th of July. And then at 3 o'clock, we're going to be in Coos Bay at the boardwalk to do a flag wave. So there you go, folks. There you go. That's just some of the things we're going to be doing. And I'll be talking more about that on the Friday night rant. You can find out more on the Facebook, my Facebook page, robtaylorreport.com. And if you want to find out anything that I'm doing, you can check me out on YouTube, on Rumble. I'm on X right now. I'm live on X. And if you want to help me out, like, share my videos, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And that would help me out by getting more people in the area knowing what's going on. There are a lot of people who like to know this information, but they don't know what time I go on, or they don't know that this show even exists, and they live in Southern Oregon. This is a good resource. So if you live especially in Coos County, this show is a really good resource. And if you want to keep our county a red county, then you gotta get involved. It's not going to change unless people are willing to change it. That's just a simple fact. So like, share, and subscribe to my channels, like my shows, share my videos, please, on any social media. It really helps me out. And I want to thank you all for joining me. It's been a real blast. And until next time, you know what I always say, folks? Carry on, Coos County. Carry on.